Welcome back to Unleash, the Political News Hour. We now enter our third and final segment of today's broadcast. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Berney Flowers to the program. Lieutenant Colonel Flowers retired, a decorated U.S. Air Force veteran with nearly 21 years of active duty service, including deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Ukraine, brings a unique perspective shaped by extensive military experience, subsequent roles in cybersecurity. That's my area of expertise as well. And more than anything, Berney's a good friend of mine. I've had him on the show a number of times. And so, Berney, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know you're very busy these days running for office as a candidate for Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. But I'm really excited to talk to you because there's so many things that are happening in states like yours, blue states, that are problematic. And I want to get into that with you.
Nate, it's good to hear from you, brother. It's always a pleasure to spend time. I have to apologize to you. I've been running too hard. My voice is not what it should be. But if you'll let me talk, I'll do my best.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you live in Maryland. I used to live in Maryland, and I'm glad not to. But maybe if I had somebody representing me like you, I would definitely, would have stayed. But the big problem that I see in Maryland, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Maryland is a blue state, is typical of Democrat-run states. They've got multiple issues with sanctuary cities, and my last guest, we got into that quite a bit about these policies. I remember it was, years ago that Rockville, Maryland, was like boldly allowing illegal aliens to vote in their municipal elections, which is tantamount to, basically setting things up for illegals voting in regular elections, or presidential elections. So it is a problem. I remember, there was multiple issues with, with various illegal gangs that are made up of El Salvadorans and Venezuelans, whether it is the Tren de Aragua or whether it's the MS-13. There's just been horror story after horror story of people being murdered and dismembered and all kinds of things due to these illegals. So, uh, tell me, what in the world is going on with these Democrats and why they would want to allow this stuff to go on in their states?
Nate, I tell you the truth, there's some kind of mind virus. I don't get it. I live in a blue sanctuary city. This whole urban area is blue, and you lived in Maryland for a long time, so you understand that once you get out of the urban areas, you might as well be in West Virginia.
Hey,
Where my
that,
people, that's how I think. But yeah, man, it's
yep.
crazy. Rockville, what they call PG County, what they
Mhm.
call Montgomery County, Baltimore City. There's a corridor of crazy. And I don't live in any of those places, so I'm going to talk about them. But yeah, you're right. There's foreign gang members wandering around. I happen to have some access to law enforcement officials, and they tell me all kinds of things that don't make the news. I don't want to get into that right now, but yes, you are right. Um, these Trende Aragua, these gang members, they operate as if they're still in Central America, and they plague their own people.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
terrible.
let me ask you something. For somebody that's on the ground, I know you're out there knocking on doors, talking to people, making connections. What does the average citizen of Maryland think about this? What are their thoughts about all of the illegal migrants? In particular, I think most people don't really care one way or the other about, some guy who's running a small business or something like that. But what they care about is the fact that you got criminal aliens who are doing dangerous things, who are creating a threat to public safety. What are your thoughts? What are people telling you?
It just depends on where you are. Matter of fact, on Saturday, I had an event at the local American Legion with a bunch of libertarian guys, and we hit it off famously. They're regular people, they're property owners. They want law and order. They back the blue. You go into Carroll County, anywhere north
Mm.
west of Baltimore, you're talking about regular American values for American first type folks. And even so, inside the cities, it just depends on where you are. I mean, most of the people I talk to, as a Republican, as a conservative, they're back in the blue. They're looking for positive, things from the government, but there is that element of blue nutcasery. I don't
Mm.
understand it. And they seem to have control of this state. And this is a one-party state in the sense that, you look at the legislature, the Republicans have literally no power, none
Hmm.
whatsoever. So we're running around here, yelling and screaming and jumping up and down and trying to fight for our rights. But, you know, we're following rules, and a lot of these people don't believe in following rules. And it just seems very, very strange to me. That's why I call it a mind virus.
Speaking of power and the way that that state is ran, let's talk about redistricting
Oh,
and gerrymandering. Of course, Maryland has had some very famous cases where the Republicans won, and yet it seems like we've not been able to get the state's lines redrawn in a way that is appropriate. What's going on with that? I haven't been following that very much lately, but of course, when I was living there, I was following it all the time, and it just seemed ridiculous that even though I lived up in Frederick, Maryland area, that my vote was basically being diluted by people down in Montgomery County, which is just ridiculous. It was like there's this long, thin line all the way down there, just so they could group in a bunch of Republic or a bunch of Democrats in to water down the Republican vote. What has changed and what is still the same?
well, let's go back to 2022. When I first got out, first left the federal government, I was so angry. And Dutch Rupersberger was the congressman in what they called District 3 at the time. And so I'm going after this guy because we both know he has his issues. So the federal government stepped in and said that the districts were totally unfair and changed the districts. The next thing you know, I'm running for Congress out in Carroll County, 50 miles away from where I live in Columbia.
Hmm.
So we got through that. The federal government stepped in. All right, we go through another election. And now here we are at the third and going for 2026. And what does the local legislature want to do? They want to redistrict again, not totally flaunting federal rules. And, you know, to give you an example of how clandestine, that's a good word, this is, we just had a major snowstorm. Last Monday, we got the worst snow slash ice storm I've seen here in a long time. That's when the Democrat establishment decided to hold their vote for, the delegates to vote for or against redistricting. So nobody knew what was going on. We're in the middle of trying to clear our driveways and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, a lot of people testified and all that sort of stuff, but they did everything they could to hold a kind of a closed door session. You don't do that while you have a snow emergency going on and people can't go to work. But the delegates did that. And so we don't know all the details of what came out of it, but from what I understand, they're doing the very, very same thing. They're trying to ace out Andy Harris, who is our District 1 congressman and the only congressional Republican that we have in Maryland. Not good, totally unfair. I'm not going to sit back here and whine about it. It is what it is. But I don't understand what they're thinking because what's going to happen is at some point the federal government is going to step in, the Justice Department, and say what you guys have done is unfair, and they'll reverse the whole decision. Crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really is a shame too, because look, I'm perfectly fine with if people want to vote Democrat and they want Democrat policies, then fine, go for it. But don't. This gerrymandering issue is a real problem because what it does is it disenfranchises those who have a common viewpoint, or who have want and have needs that may be different, right? Especially like rural counties and stuff like that. They've got completely different needs than those that that are in the inner city and that sort of thing. So when they do things like that, like the way they used to have it, I guess they have changed it a little bit So it's a lot better now than it used to be, but it's still like they're driving, I think like your second district, is driven all the way to the Bay.
Yeah.
Was it covering, Carroll County and Baltimore County?
Those
So
people have nothing to do with each other. I mean, you
no,
you lived
nothing.
out there. You know how
Yeah,
folks are in Carroll County, and you know how to fire. So you've negated the vote of both of them.
that's right. Carroll County and Frederick County are probably very similar in their their attitudes and their needs and even the ruralness of those communities. So to split it, right, it is 100% a ploy by the Democrats to water down the conservative vote, and and they've done it successfully, so much so people don't realize that Maryland at one point was a Republican state.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to even you wouldn't even know it now, because you got these these crazy guys like Jamie Raskin and what's the other guy up there who went down to you guys have what's his name, Christopher, oh, I can't remember, he's one, I think he's one of your senators. Is it Van Hollen?
Oh, Van Hollen,
Yeah, this is the guy
Kilmar
that,
Grego Varcia, whatever that dude's name
yeah, the
is.
guy goes down there to to go basically meet what he cares more about illegal aliens than he does about his own people. That's what disgusts me about these people, these Democrats who have been running the state of Maryland. It's absolutely insane,
Yeah,
and I
it's
don't
insane.
understand how people don't see that. You know,
Most people are apathetic when it comes to politics and still until their power bill starts going over, or still it starts affecting them in the wallet. And again, forgive me for my voice. I've spent too much time out shoveling snow and ice, man. It is crazy. And I'm pretty sure it's the same way where you are. Oh
oh
shoot,
yeah,
sorry. But you got to forgive me, man. I thought I turned this thing off and I'm getting some call from New Jersey that or the number that I don't know. So I had to shut her down, man. And I thought I turned it off, but yeah, man, it's absolutely insane what Van Hollen and that crew. We are a state run by. It's a one-party state,
yeah.
and there's rumors that Venezuela. You're going to find out that there's been money transferred from all over the world into these areas to make sure Act Blue has the money to do the dastardly things that they do. So
That's
yeah,
a
man. I
whole
mean.
nother area that is just completely corrupt is the way that
Yeah.
money. See, listen, folks, here's the thing, and actually I can speak to this too because I ran for Congress the last election. And here's what I discovered. Dark money makes its way into politics, and the reality is nobody knows where that money's coming from. It can come from an LLC, it can come from a an organization, it can come from the bottom line is the way the rules are written is that when money is spent on advertising, even for a candidate, and this was thanks to a terrible decision, I believe by the Supreme Court that honestly I think needs to be reversed, which is the uh, uh, U.S. versus Citizens United.
Mm.
And what it allowed for was it allowed corporations to be treated as if they were citizens of the United States, and so therefore they have the right to free speech, which means that any corporation can spend whatever money they want on advertising to support a candidate. Here's the problem with that: they're not covered by FEC election laws, so they're covered by the IRS. So that means that nothing that they spend is public. It's not a matter of public record. Whereas, like, if I donate, to your campaign or somebody donates to your campaign, all of that is public record. Even the PACs, right? They have some level of FEC, basically oversight. But
Yeah.
this dark money issue, it really is a problem because the Chinese government, the Venezuelan government, could be putting money into elections through corporations or through all they need is an LLC. That's it. They just need an LLC, or it could be a 501c4, I believe.
3 or 4.
Yeah. And they can donate up to half of their funds towards, they can use it on political advertising, and it does not have any oversight by the FEC. It is absolutely a national security issue, and honestly, but it's going to take Congress to fix it. And
Yeah.
the fact is that most of them don't want to, because it's a way for them to solicit massive amount of funds towards political advertising, which is of course extremely expensive.
Oh yeah, you've got all these organizations like APAC and Act Blue and this, that, and the other, and they're basically running around with impunity. And it's terrible that our system is like this, but we're going to have to elect some good people to fix it. That's the only way.
Yeah, absolutely. With your background, I'm curious. I wanted to get your thoughts real quickly on the state of our military. We've had some just amazing things that have happened. With under Pete Hegseth, it seems like our military's of course, no longer called the Department of Defense, now called the Department of War. And I don't think that's just a symbolic measure. I think it actually is really showing a tide shift in the way that our military is operating, and exemplified by this operation down there to capture Maduro. What are your thoughts on what are you hearing from your friends and people that you still are connected with in the military?
You probably know some of them.
Yeah, I'm sure we have
Yeah.
we do have a lot of the same friends.
Yes, we do. But the bottom line is I am absolutely thrilled. The recruiting is up.
Mhm.
We've had these capabilities for a long time, but one of the things that the president has done is cleaned out all the dead weight.
Yeah.
We're not in the business, and I'm glad he changed the name to Department of War. It was once the Department of War many, many years ago when we first started this country. But the issue of the day is that we should be in the business. We need to understand that we're in the business of making war. And we went down to Venezuela. We did what needed to be done with a minimal loss of life, and it was literal surgical perfection. And I'm just so proud to be involved in that. But the attitude, the ethos is back now. People want to join the military. We get away from people who don't want to. Forgive me just a second. Man, that ice is getting the best of me. But the bottom line is I'm just thrilled, and I look for great things. We should be not in the business of involving ourselves in long-term conflicts. We
Hmm.
need to protect this hemisphere. We need to protect America and what they've done down on the border as well, working with Customs and Border Patrol. Remember, I got a long history with Northcom, and that involves, the military and the Guard and
Hmm.
Reserve. So things are working in that sphere the way it's supposed to, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like when you think about readiness, and the most important thing that we can do is to deter our enemies from getting us into a war in the first place. And Trump has done everything, I think, to ensure that, right? And even so much as like, and sometimes people don't understand why he does what he does. People, a lot of people complain, well, why did he allow Maduro's, vice president to stay in power? Because it wasn't about regime change. It was about getting this criminal, and sending a message to the whole world that, hey, you better not F around, or you're going to find out that we will have our special forces operators in your bedroom, and that wee hours of the morning collecting you. So,
People don't seem to understand they were conducting war by other means against us. I
absolutely
mean,
asymmetric. Yep.
yeah, hundreds of thousands of people a year dying from fentanyl, hundreds of thousands of people a year dying from drugs. And they were part of the machine, and the Chinese were helping them. Let's just face it. So that's stopping. The borders closed. We're doing things the way they need to be done. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, but I am just
Yeah.
thrilled with the
And
progress.
those recruitment numbers being up, let's face it, that ultimately that tells you the morale levels in the military. Before, they were having trouble meeting. None of the services, were able to even meet recruitment numbers. I think the Marine Corps was the only one that even came close,
Yeah.
and they only had to, cover. I think most of the military, except for the Marines, have to cover a two front war. Marine Corps is the only one that is only required to meet a one front war. So those numbers are very important, and we're definitely meeting that. But we're just about out of time. But Bernie, where can people follow you? Where can they learn about what you're doing in Maryland?
Wow. Thank you for the opportunity. BerneyFlowers.com online, flowersformaryland.com, same website. I'm on X, I'm on Facebook. I've got two channels on Facebook. I am on just about all the social media channels. And when you publish this, I'll be with you too. So the bottom line is we're just trying to do the right thing, trying to be honest human beings and do what's best. And we will fight that fight as long as we can breathe. So I thank you. You can look me up if you can send a little change my way. We're trying to do this the right thing because we're the right way, because we're trying to stay away from all this corporate pack stuff. So I appreciate anything you guys can send our way. Check us out, flowersformaryland.com.
Well, that concludes our conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Berney Flowers, retired, whose insights into political landscape of blue states in particular and the pathway for conservative resurgence has been both incisive and encouraging. We thank you for being on the show, Berney, and we've had a great hour here talking about some of the important issues that are going on around our country. Folks, remember to stay engaged and stay unleashed. This is Political News Hour, and we'll see you next week.